we're going to talk a little bit about this about TCU's rooting interest.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about that because for those who don't know, the college football playoff initial rankings came out on Tuesday.
That's true.
There's only one Texas team in the top 25. That is not surprising. We kind of expected there to only be one. It is the TCU Horned Frogs. The TCU Horned Frogs check in the initial college football playoff rankings at number 8. Numero ocho is where they are. So we take a look at who's ahead of them and who they need to start rooting for if they want to get into that top 4. First and foremost, I think it goes without saying, TCU needs to win out. They need to take care of their own business, in my opinion, because if they do that, they're gonna give themselves the best shot. Do we agree that a second loss would end their college football playoff hopes? Is that fair?
It would seem so, but I'm not going to say it's a given.
Let's put it this way.
It is very. It's going to be very tough for a 2-loss team to make the playoff. Very tough.
You missed one important qualifier there as well. It will be very difficult for a 2-loss team from the Big 12 to get in there. Now, I do think that they showed the Big 12 a little bit more respect than I thought they would. For example, you've got 4 teams in the top 15. You've got Oklahoma at number 5, TCU at number 8, Oklahoma State at number 11, and Iowa State at number 15. They showed them a fair amount of respect there. That said, I don't believe that I think that in the end, reputation will win out because these are humans. And I think reputation will win out, and that I do not think that a 2-loss Big 12 champion will get into the playoffs.
One exception.
Okay.
But it's not TCU. A 2-loss Oklahoma team who beat Ohio State, lost to TCU, but then won a rematch or won a Big 12 title game, had momentum at the end of the year, or lost to an Oklahoma State and beat someone good in the championship game, gives them 2 marquee wins. Maybe.
Probably.
But not TCU.
Probably true. You're exactly right.
But even in that scenario, lots of other teams have to lose, and it'd basically be like chaos, and that would be your last straw argument.
One of the problems that TCU's running into is that they initially scheduled Arkansas to be like this big marquee non-conference win.
Right.
And especially going on the road, they're like, yeah, that's it. And Arkansas stinks.
Yeah, they're bad.
That's a big thing that's really dragging down TCU. So maybe you're right. That would be maybe the very small loophole. And even then, you'd need chaos atop.
That's what I'm saying. It's the one sort of path you could see where, Oklahoma has a huge win over a team the committee loves and the numbers love. Mm-hmm. And if they could find a way to come back from another loss to get back there, they would have a decent argument.
So then let's talk about TCU. So TCU, I'm of the belief that TCU will not make the playoff with 2 losses.
Right.
They will need to win the rest of their games plus the college football plus the Big 12 championship to get in there. What do they need to happen? Who do they need to be rooting for this weekend? First and foremost, the big game this weekend is Bedlam. It's Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in Stillwater. They need to be rooting like hell for Oklahoma State because that would only boost their win, I think, over Oklahoma State on the road. For me, now, look, I don't think that there is necessarily a if you're going to end up having to win out, I think that it's kind of one and the same because in the end you're going to have to beat the team that beat the other one in that one. They also need to be rooting like hell for Iowa State.
Right.
Every single game. Right now, TCU needs to be the biggest Cyclone fans in the world besides Max.
Joseph Oliveris is making an enemy, by the way. First he says candy corn is good, and now he's mocking my Cyclones because OU, who lost to Iowa State. You know what, Joseph? You're on thin ice, buddy.
Whoosh,
I still
whoosh,
love
whoosh.
you, but you're on thin ice.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So there's that. That's one thing. Let's just presume. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the SEC is not going to get 2 in. Right now, they have number 1 and number 2, Georgia and Alabama. They will. Let's assume that they stay on course and they play each other in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. And let's say only the winner gets in. Not, by the way, guaranteed, because we know the committee loves the SEC. It wouldn't surprise me if they're 1 and 2 and then it's a close game. It wouldn't surprise me if they drop the loser to 4 and keep them in. But let's just assume. They need to start rooting very hard against Notre Dame, That's an easy one because there's no conference affiliations there. They just have to be in the top 4.
And no one likes Notre Dame.
No one likes Notre Dame anyway. So they need to be big Wake Forest fans this week as well. And for me, when it comes to the Big Ten, they just need to TCU just needs to root for chaos. They need to root for everyone to start losing to everyone else. Right now, Ohio State is 6 and Penn State is 7. Ohio State's already beaten Penn State. For me, they need Ohio State to lose in the Big 12 or Big 10 championship game to, I think Wisconsin's on the other side of that. And they probably need Wisconsin to drop a game as well. So they need to root for absolute just cannibalism in the Big 10. The other team up there is Clemson. And Clemson's interesting because they've already had a loss, and it's kind of a bad loss to Syracuse, and yet they're still in the top 4. I would presume, yes, root against Clemson. Root for all the teams ahead of you in the poll, or root against them rather. But I also think that Clemson's probably not going to lose another game. I think that they are. That would be a bonus if you can knock them off. So for me, those are the clear rooting interests for TCU. They need to root. I think they need to root for maybe a close game. The best thing that can happen in Bedlam for them would be a close game where it's where everyone comes away saying "Wow, these are two really good teams," and then TCU beats them both. They also need to root for Iowa State, and then they need to root probably for probably a blowout in the SEC championship game. That's kind of where I sit right now. Now, look, a lot of things can change, and if TCU spits the bit this week against Texas, then this is going to look like a really dumb segment. But I will say that for me, that's where
like most segments.
That's where TCU's rooting interest should lie right now in entering Week 10 of the college football season.